All right, guys, so welcome to all you guys, and you guys who are at home watching live, welcome as well. So today, as discussed, we're going to talk about stress in your vision and how it impacts your sight, how it impacts your life, and really, I'm very solutions-oriented. You know, a lot of medicine, a lot of even psychology, and a lot of what's out there generally talks a lot about the problems, right? Just in life in general, the stress problems, the vision problems, whatever we're dealing with, it's problems, problems, problems. But it's better to focus on solutions, right? Like, we kind of know the problems, and what happens when we get sucked on the problems, we kind of get in a trap of thinking that if we focus on the problems, then that's doing enough work sometimes. And it isn't, and we're going to talk about why. So today's talk is stress and vision, finding peace, clarity, and direction. And that's really what it's all about, right? We're going to kind of get to a pace where we're just like, you know, like breathe a little bit, have like a little bit of relaxation around this. Not that, you know, we're going to have, you know, everything is going to line up and the planets are going to line, but some sense of peace and just release the pressure release valve around this. And of course, clarity, right? A lot of the stress and confusion is about lack of clarity. Like, what's going on? What do I do about it? And then what direction do I go? Like, if I want to do something about this, what do I do? So, a lot of this, again, this conversation is based on the lack of support that there is by the conventional biomedical or ophthalmic standpoint. You know, basically doctors, you come in, they check your eyes, you're dealing with it, and then it's like, okay, well, if you're upset, go see your shrink. You know, go talk to your therapist. You know, that's not my department. And that's fine to a certain degree, but as a holistic doctor and dealing with integrative holistic practices, specifically my main original training in Chinese medicine, we don't really separate the mind and the body. That's one of the aspects of Chinese medicine that really drew me towards studying it, was this understanding that we really can't take this Western approach of really separating the body from the mind, that the mind its own entity and the body its own entity, like they both work together and they influence each other. Physiology affects our mental and emotional state, and our mental and emotional state can, of course, affect our physiology. Everybody agree on that? Okay, so let's move forward. So as I usually start out my presentations, we're going to talk about the problems, right? Specifically the relevant problems. Now, of course, you guys are here and you guys are watching at home. The big elephant in the room is the vision. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's for a loved one, maybe it's for a friend, a partner, a family member, a parent, a child, a sibling. Anyway, it's somebody who you know, love, and care about who's dealing with this problem, or it's yourself. So you know you've been diagnosed with either this acute episode where your vision suddenly lost, either an accident or an eye stroke or some hemorrhage or something. Something happened. Optic nerve started to crap out on you or something like that. Something happened. Or it's been a slow progressive journey where you're kind of going from like stable to worse, stable to worse, stable to worse. And that's just stressing you out. So, again, these conditions can be either acute, that means like you wake up one day and something happens to your eyes, or there's an accident or an event, or it's you're diagnosed, there's like a slow or rapid progression of whatever disease you're dealing with. There is limited and no conventional treatment, right? Like if it's cataract surgery or glasses or contact lenses, those are refractive issues, pretty easy to fix. All right, some of these other conditions like the neurodegenerative conditions, macular degeneration, glaucoma, Stargardt's, Usher syndrome, retinitis pigmentosa, optic nerve issues, optic nerve strokes, progressive optic nerve atrophies and retinal dystrophies, even things like chronic dry eye. These things that just kind of like we don't get a solution for. We're just kind of manage them and grabbing at straws and trying this, trying that, and just we're hopefully waiting for something to come along. So long and the short is what I alluded to before. There's poor direction and little or no clarity to what you do by your eye doctor, right? They're like, we don't really know. And if they're honest, they'll say that, right? If you have a good, honest optometrist or retinal glaucoma specialist, they'll say to you, look, why is my vision getting worse? At best, just say, we don't really know. We know it's neurodegenerative. You know, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, and this is what treatments are available to you, if there's any. So and you're not really it's like, oh, you have macular degeneration. You know how many patients I've said, oh yeah, you have early macular degeneration. It's just kind of a dismissal. The patient leaves like, hey, what's macular degeneration? Start, typing up Dr. Google and saying, they're like, oh my God, like this going blind. So it's not a good end game for that. So there's not a lot of communication, a lot of direction, a lot of clarity. So this is to try to help fill those gaps. And you're kind of left to figure it out for yourself, right? If you're lucky, you have like a family member helping you out, or maybe you got a group of people, or you've plugged into a community. Usually a lot, I mean, we try to be real positive, but a lot of that, even the online Facebook groups or the support groups, even before Facebook came around, a lot of them are doom and gloom. A lot of them are like, oh, there's nothing for you, and da-da-da, and like everybody just poo-poos anything that's non-surgical and non-conventional, non-researched, which is fine. People are certainly entitled to those opinions, but just be wary of those. Like, if you don't feel good, like if you don't feel empowered, of course you want to checks and balances. It's not like, Pollyanna type of stuff where it just wants to be, oh, great, everything's going to be great, because it's not. But we still want positive, productive conversations, and sometimes those conversations should be challenging, right? They should challenge the status quo. What do you think you know? What don't you know? But this whole, like, you're doom, gloom, there's nothing available for you, don't even try it, like, kind of stay away from that. That's just my recommendation. So the other thing I want to mention that I want you guys to consider, which is actually, if you think about it, the reality of the situation, is it's really not the vision loss. Like, if you guys just, like, sit in meditation with nothing else going on, and you just, like, close your eyes, or you leave your eyes open, if you're just sitting there listening to music, or sitting on your couch, sitting in your bed, or meditating, like, the vision loss really isn't causing a problem in that situation, right? When you sleep, is vision loss, like, really an issue? Like, no, not really. So what happens, the problem is how it affects your lifestyle, the things you can do and the things you can't do. So it's really a functional problem. It messes with your life, so to speak. So that's where the frustration comes on. You can't do the things you want. You need help. You have to rely on people. It kind of compromises your ego because you're like, I just want to get things done, or I just want to have things and things I used to have that I don't. So there's a lot of them. That's really what we're going to start talking about, a lot of the emotional sides and what comes up and how do we deal with that. And again, this is absolutely not an extensive conversation on this, but as I alluded to earlier, I'm going to hit some of the things that I've researched over the last 30 years, a lot of the psychological models, a lot of the Eastern philosophy models, and a lot of the teachings and trainings that I've learned over the last, like I said, 25, 30 years that actually I've seen work. Like, there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there in terms of, like, self-help and think positive and, stuff like that. I'm more about, like, what really works. So I'm going to give you guys a lot of different ideas, and it's going to feel like a lot. So it may be a little bit of a garden hose experience for you guys. That's why I'm recording this, because you guys might want to go back and watch this a couple times. But so think about, find one. Right? Find one thing that kind of makes sense, or two things. Like, they don't all have to be relevant to you, although they may be. But if you can kind of pull one or two gems out of this presentation that really resonates with you, and let me hear about it. Like, if you guys, even watching online, if something really resonates with you, like, posting it, because it may help somebody else too who might have been embarrassed to say it or something like that. So, so let's move forward. So, we know, as we just said, we have this issue called vision loss. Either it's early stage, mid stage, or it's advanced, and there's a lot of vision loss. The reality, again, is that there are probable impacts of this situation that we call problems. Like, there's some problems or challenges you guys are having. It can be, and here are some examples of that, right? Some may be more relevant to you than others, but your job and earning potential. If you're for yourself or you have a partner or something like that, maybe you have kids, like, there's that. There's guilt. Maybe I want to be working and I can't working. There's the emotional side. There's the certainly financial side. There's the productivity. I want to feel like I'm helping out, all this type of stuff. So there's an impact on that. Like, well, there's limitations of maybe what types of career choices you might be able to do. And unfortunately, this is where they're a really good service. I don't even know if it exists, but certainly, like, the FFB could be doing something like this. Like, create job boards for people who are visually impaired. Like, let's look at what job. I haven't done that, but I think that would be a really useful thing for somebody like maybe the FFB or something to do. Like, let's take a list of what type of jobs, if you're starting to lose your vision and that's kind of a thing, and you still want to work and you want to produce, like, what can you do? You know, like, what can you talk to people on the phone? Like, what types of job opportunities are there available for people who are visually impaired? Because that will kind of help, like, oh, all right, you know, well, this kind of isn't working out, or I may have to shift careers, but it's not it. You know, it's not like you're retired at 35, like, just because your vision's compromised. So that would be something that's valuable, but that's definitely a thing, like jobs and earning potential. Impact on your primary relationships. Anybody get stressed ever? On both sides, right? So who do we usually take our stuff out on, right? Our partners. They get the best of us, but they also tend to get the worst of us. When we're moody, when we're crabby, when we're sad, when we're hurting. And we talk more about that too. But it can, if this stuff isn't dealt with, it can really strain relationships. So a lot of what I'm going to show you guys tonight too is how to help that. You know, if you guys are in relationships or supporting somebody or wanting to be supported, how to receive. I don't know how to receive support. Like, I don't know. I know what I need. I just know it's making me crazy dealing with this. So I'm going to show you guys like how to receive support and how to give support to a little bit in a way that I know. Try it out. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then this is stuff that I've found to be useful. Impact on your freedom and independence, right? Like we've talked about that. That's pretty obvious. Just needing help getting around, travel, rides, getting to the grocery store, sometimes, you know, going to the bathroom or taking a shower or something like that. Like, it's a thing. You just kind of need help getting around sometimes. Impact on your daily productivity and speed. The quantity of what you're producing and the amount, right? Some people are just like to get stuff done. They're like busy people. They just love to do stuff. And as your vision declines progressively, you might not be getting the same amount of stuff done that you used to getting done. So you kind of got to reset your brain for that and kind of reset your expectations. Like, all right, you know, maybe getting 2 or 3 things done is enough. You know, good is good enough type of thing. So, you know, that's kind of like, don't push yourself too hard for that. And some days may be better than others. You know, may feel better, more energy. So impact on things you enjoy, right? So sometimes we have to shift hobbies. Like I got patients who used to be motorcycle enthusiasts, skiers, like motorcycles and stuff like that. Now, if there's anything that uses velocity and speed, you know, those types of things, and you need your vision to kind of, you know, prevent yourself or anybody else from getting injured, those types of higher risk activities might want to be curtailed. And of course, there's options to that. Like I'm an avid snowboarder, and all the time we see that there are guides. People go skiing, and there are guides and stuff like that. So there's certainly solutions to deal with this type of stuff. But that's a thing too. You know, you may have to find some new hobbies and things that you're interested in, and that could be a bummer, you know, for some people. But you know, it's a good opportunity to maybe pick up an instrument. You know, guitar, piano, even drums or something like that. You can learn to set things up where they're at, and it's just something else that you guys can, you know, learn to create in terms of, you know, what are you going to do with your creative time? It doesn't always have to be about, you know, quantitative production. There's the quality side of what do you like to, maybe what have you always wanted to do? Maybe find something that can help you with that. So impact on self-confidence, right? Of course, you know, we start to feel down on ourselves. Our sense of self-worth can decline as the vision declines, you know, and then we trigger on that. We get irritated. We're not so nice sometimes because we have this sense of low self-worth, and we feel that, and we kind of live with that if that's a thing. And then we could either do one of 2 things to that. We kind of walk around with that, you know, with that energy around us, and then people might not treat us that well because we kind of allow them to. We have this low self-worth. Or on the other side, we're stressed out, and we're very protective, and we start to trigger on people and like, whoa, what, can't you see? Like, I have a problem, you know, stuff like that, or you're like kind of cowering and stuff like that. So you could either go introvert or be kind of like beyond extrovert, just kind of protective and defensive about yourself. So those are indications that there's some self-confidence going. And I'm not talking about your general self-confidence. I just mean like if it really starts to wear on you and you're really just not feeling good about yourself. And again, I know there's this whole like movement in psychology, which has actually been going on since mostly the 70s, where it's like, feel good about yourself, like always, like everybody who's successful and happy always feels good about yourself. I don't buy it. You know what I mean? That's like advertising, and that's social media and stuff like that. Most of life is struggle. Like we all know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on all the time. We have some really cool experiences and really cool interactions with people, but there's a lot. Every day we have battles, right? We all have stuff every day that we have to deal with. So this idea that everybody's happy and self-confident and full of, you know, vigor and vitality all the time, it's a facade. So everybody's got their bad days and everybody's got their stuff that they're dealing with, and don't let anybody tell you anything otherwise. But self-confidence is something we want to cultivate, and that comes out of working on our self-worth and our partners. In my experience, that we can do for ourselves, but if we're in a relationship, our partners can actually be a really, really good source for help cultivating our self-worth. And we're going to talk more about how to do that. So if you're in a real healthy relationship, you guys may have had this experience, your self-worth is elevated. If you're not in a healthy relationship, that's the first thing you usually notice. That's the first thing that drives split-ups. It may look different from relationship to relationship, but ultimately your self-worth is bottomed out with relative to that person. So you kind of don't feel good. You don't feel like a happy, positive person around them anymore. So you guys are kind of like, and then what happens when things get nasty, we start kind of going after our self-worth. So again, that kind of becomes a downward spiral. But what I want to say is the opportunity is there to right that. And the opportunity there is to help. You can really help the other person build up their self-worth if you do it right. We're going to talk about how to do that. Health, fitness, and exercising. Guys, just because your vision isn't great doesn't mean that's an excuse not to exercise. I hear that a lot. But yeah, do you want to like hop on a 10-speed and go down the highway? No. You know, do you want to like, you know, maybe do a triathlon? No. But can you jump on a stationary bike or an elliptical or do some bands or resistance trainings or, you know, calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups, whatever. Stretching, yoga. You know, these are all things that you can do. And we're going to talk more about the value. Exercise is huge, guys, especially for managing stress. Really, really big. Impact on spiritual connection, right? That's big too. Some of you guys are really plugged in spiritually. Go to church, go to temple, pray, whatever that looks like for you, some more than others. But it definitely, if you have a negative outlook on this situation, like you definitely, a lot of my patients rather, and people I talk to, they feel like they're cursed. You know, they're like, why me? Like, why did this happen to me? They're mad at God, they're mad at the universe, they're mad at Allah, they're mad at Jesus, like whatever. You're like, why? Why did you do this to me? Like, I'm a good person, like, come on, you know? So there's a lot of, and that energy, right, you're not really connected to source or to God or for whatever you want to be connected to. So it really gets in the way, especially when you victimize. And we're going to talk about victimization with that. Okay? So is that real for you guys? That some of that seemed like pretty accurate? And again, I didn't make this up. This comes from talking to my patients for the last 25 years. A lot of this stuff does. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is something I learned about 2 years ago. It's really, really important. Helped me a lot to understand. It's a concept called dealing with overwhelm. It's this idea of resting stress. All right? So it's what we talked about earlier. On any given day, look at this. So I have these two goalposts over here. And that's the range of our stress capacity, right? To the right, we have, if we're kind of here, that's a lower stress capacity. If we come all the way up here, we'll call that like a max. So low stress, high stress, over stress. Okay? So every day, like we talked about earlier, there's always stuff going on. Always. There's always stuff going on. So that stuff that we wake up in the morning and you're like, look, we all wake up, we have some good days most of the time, hopefully we feel pretty good, but there are those first things that like come on. It's like, oh, gotta take the dogs out. Oh, the floor is cold. Oh, my back trying to get out of, I slept like crap last, anything that comes up, resting stress, like, and you wake up before your feet even hit the ground. Some days, like, you're like, I'm not even getting out of bed today. Like, well, I'm much better staying in bed today because nothing good out there is going to happen. So you know that when your resting stress is really high. When you wake up and you're like, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, you're ready to go, low resting stress. You feel good. There's not a lot of pressure on you. So just understanding where you are in this spectrum is really important, and it's going to change from day to day, right? Yes or no, sometimes we have a lot going on, and sometimes we get, life gives us a break, and some of the pressure goes off, and things are okay for a while. But we got to be aware of this. Why? Because when our resting stress, say we got like our base resting stress, call it like 25 to 30% of whatever going on. If we're, mature, responsible adults dealing with some work, some relationships, some health issues, social, political, like whatever's going on in the world, there's this baseline stress. Then we catch a cold. Then we have an argument. Then somebody cuts us off at work. Then your bill's late and they're going to turn off your gas or your electric. Then your dog ate a bag of marbles and you got to pay for like $4,000 for a surgery or it's going to die. You know what I mean? So it builds up. So this is like 7:30 in the morning. You know what I mean? And then you start getting calls and people start asking, and you're done. You're done by 10 to 8. Like you're done for the day. So all this other stuff comes up when you've gotten past your capacity, your stress capacity, and you're moved into overwhelm. And that's like the wind blows and you're like, like this, or somebody looks at you wrong. You're like, what? Like, hi, have a nice day. What? What'd you say? And you're like kind of later on, you're like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. But you're like, what was that? This is what that was. So the value of knowing this is if you can gauge it and you're kind of at capacity, don't take more on that day. Ask for help. Know your capacity. Don't say yes to new projects, ideas. This is not the time to go out with a friend who needs some consoling. It's just not. Are you going to be useful? Your cup is, as they say, the cup. Taoists and Buddhists use this idea of a cup overflowing. This is like overflowing on the ground, like all over the room. You're so overflowed, and you're not your container. You can't hold anymore. You're done. So. We're going to talk about how you decompress this, right? And how you start to unpack this. But just this is what's going on when you've kind of reached your limit and you're out. There's so many little things that have built up. Or maybe it's a couple of big things. Maybe you were like halfway and then you lost your job. Or maybe a loved one got really sick or passed or something like that. Like a major event that just put you over the edge. You got to chill out at that point. You got to focus on yourself because you need to decompress at that point. And most people don't, right? Put on a happy face and you go to work and you're like, oh, great, how are you doing? And then you blow. Your system blows. Or we're going to talk about how people deal with this stuff. So I wanted to make a note here that a lot of this stress, worry, and overwhelm comes from resistance. So keep in mind, in the back of your mind too, you are resisting a lot of stuff that's going on here. You feel like the world's against you. All of it. Everything. Everybody, every blade of grass on the ground, every pebble, every piece of asphalt, every cloud, is out to get you. You really felt like that, right? So just know that you're resisting. So the first thing we want to start looking for is acceptance, and we're going to talk more about that. But ask yourself, if you're so overwhelmed, just what am I resisting? Just make an audit. I'm resisting a lot right now. I need to look at what I'm resisting. So that's just a mindset to just keep this idea in conversation of overwhelming and stress capacity. You guys got that? Okay. So let's talk about two types of psychological stress. All right, there's spiritual stress, there's chemical stress, there's electromagnetic stress, there is microbial stress, there's pollution stress. Right now, we're just talking about the mental emotional stresses. Okay, there are really two kinds, and we're oversimplifying it. Yes, if you are a psychologist, and excuse me, but we're really looking at mental versus emotional. Mental stress is about finding solutions and solving problems, right? So it's puzzles. I got to figure it out. You're not really emotionally charged about it. You get a little irritated or a little, maybe exhausted because you've been working on something. But there's not much of an emotional charge in mental problem solving. You're just working. You're busy. kind of working on something and trying to mull over it. You can get stressed, but there's not really a huge emotional component. The emotional component is more an issue of processing feelings. Again, usually resistance to something that's generating some negative feelings, right? Let me clarify. That should actually be processing negative feelings. Negative feelings is a big, big thing there. So you guys understand the difference between the two? Yeah? Pretty clear? Okay. So coping with stress, we have two ways that we deal with it. We could do it positively or negatively, constructive or destructive. We build ourselves up, we have a positive outlet, and we come out better, stronger as a result of it, or we dig ourselves into the pit, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So let's talk about constructive first. Constructive coping is great. These are solutions and processing based on wisdom, experience, and learning, right? It actually can be some fun to it, like, oh man, this is rough, but I'm going to learn something. I'm going to get something out of this. I don't really know what it is, but there's something going to be here. There's something that's going to help me grow and evolve. I'm going to be better through this. It kind of sucks right now going through this, but I will be I know I'll be a better person. I'm going to learn some life skills as a result of this. So we're dealing with the issue, right? We're dealing directly with the issue. I've identified what is going on, either an emotional situation or a mental situation, a problem or a puzzle that I need to solve, right? I've identified that. I'm taking responsibility. It's my problem. Other people could be having it too, but right now this is my problem. I'm taking responsibility. I'm taking accountability to figure it out. It doesn't mean I'm not asking for help. It just means that I am fully responsible. I've declared myself to be fully responsible to figuring this out, right? It's empowering. I'm taking this on. I'm going to deal with this. I may not succeed at it, but at least I'm willing to take it on. And I've identified that I'm the one who can solve this problem. So also the idea is I may not have created this problem. Again, let's talk about vision issues. Like, it's not your fault. You know, you didn't ask for it. But I'm responsible for managing it. Right? I always like that. You know, like, there's more work to do. But that's the truth. And that's a power position to be in. Like, I didn't ask for this. I'm responsible. I got to deal with it. That's it. Or not. And we're going to talk about that in a minute too. What life lessons will this situation teach me? Again, you don't have to like it. But just in the back end, you know you're going to be better. You know if you figure this problem out, you're going to rise to a new, better, upgraded version of yourself. Because you're learning some stuff. It's going to be hard. I'm not saying it's not going to be easy. But you know in the back end, like, hey, I'm going to learn some stuff here. And their solution based on what is, right? It's sovereignty. I figured a problem and I'm exercising my freedom to deal with this situation as it is. Okay? So then let's look at what a destructive coping mechanism is. It's based on distracting myself and sedating and running from the problem. This is taking the problem on. Destructive is usually fight or flight. Right? It's you're in stress mode, you're either going to freak out about it or you're going to run away from it. So I'm avoiding dealing with the issues, and it's usually ego-based. So we're going to practice sedation techniques. Some are better, some are worse. Sedation means I want to numb myself out so I don't have to deal with the emotional charge of it. So avoid dealing with the issue. How do we do that? Avoidance, just negative disassociation, cognitive dissonance, right? Drugs, alcohol, opiates, sex, fighting with people, reading, maybe overwork, doing habits and things that aren't helpful for us, complaining, looking up, digging into more negative stuff, amplifying that which is negative, and then sedating it and just not even dealing with it. Don't even talk to me about it. Don't even talk to me about it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm just drinking it away or drugging it away or, any distraction, anything that stimulates your nervous system that becomes self-harm, so you have to deal with it. Something to override the negative feelings that you don't want to deal with. Blame it, usually rooted in blame and entitlement. That's a hard pill to swallow. For me, it was when I kind of learned about this self. But if you're kind of doing that, you're pretty entitled. And that's a defense mechanism. That's not your fault either. It's a pain that you haven't dealt with, that you don't want to deal with, and you're kind of, I hate to use the term, but it's like the inner child thing is coming up, and you're being child. We are not children. We're being childish. We're saying, like, I deserve better. This shouldn't happen to me. Like, blaming somebody else externally. How dare they, you, it, my body, God, whatever. Created this blaming something else. So I'm the victim. It did it to me. Poor me. You know, kind of that whole thing. And look, some days we may have that. Some days we're not. The thing is just not to sit in this. Having these thoughts are fine. It's in the human. Just don't sit in there. You know, this will put you in the pit. This will bring you to the top of the mountain. This will bring you deep, dark, into misery. So blame and entitlement. I deserve better. I don't deserve this. Stuff like that, you know, or variations of that conversation, that self-talk. The world owes me. I'm a victim and I deserve better. Think like that sometimes. And it's fine. Just don't sit with that. You know, what's it going to do? You know, you just get yourself angry and you make the world wrong and you right. And are you any better? No. This doesn't help the situation. I'm cursed. You know, that type of conversation too. Like, what the hell? Like, somebody put a hex on me. Some witch doctor somewhere, I guess. I don't know. It's what it is. We think, because you try to rational, like, what is going on? You got to, like, make things up because you just don't know. And it's really, at the end of it, it's really anger and irritability that's under a lot of sadness and grief. So it's a lot of expression of irritability, anger, like intolerance. I'm not dealing with this. But underneath that, there's usually a lot of sadness. Sometimes fear, too, but usually there's a lot of sadness underneath that. And it's a perseveration or a hyper-focus on what should be. It shouldn't be like this. I should be able to see. I should have this. I should have that. Different than what is. Right? It's what should be. It's not what is. It's disempowering to focus on what should be and not do it. But you could talk about what you want, what you desire, what you're looking for, what your goals are. But if it's not even of this planet, it ain't in the card. You know what I mean? If it ain't happening, it ain't happening. So, and that doesn't mean giving up at all. It just means looking at what is right now. Where am I? Get the facts. Like, what is going on? You know, stop the bullshit. This is getting rid of the bullshit. Stop the stories. Stop the drama. You know, that's what wisdom is. So what's the facts and what can I do about it? That's it. Get rid of the stories. Get rid of the drama. It's there. It'll come up. It's not going to serve you. You know? Write a journal. Like, if you want to, great. Journal about it. Journal your feelings out. Write memoirs. You know, they're valuable. Just don't sit. Don't let it consume you. So, next thing I want to shift to is, do you guys know that when vision goes, there is a biological mechanism that creates anxiety that you don't have control over initially? Why? 25,000 years ago-ish, to about 1 million years ago when we were in caves, right? We were in cave stuff about 10,000 years ago. Vision was required for survival, right? Saber-toothed tiger comes at you. You don't see him. What happens? You are catnip. You are their chew stick. You wander off a cliff. You wander into somebody else's, another tribe's camp. Oh, that's my buddy. You know, you get nailed. Somebody takes a rock to your head or something like that. Or you eat something that's poisonous. You stay out you lose your way home. You follow the trail. You don't get your trail. You know, stay somewhere. Again, so all these life situations, you need your vision to survive. And the way our brains are still wired from 10,000 to 1 million years ago, right, 10,000, we could agree between 10,000 years ago and 1 million years ago is really a long time, right? And that's a long time for our brains and our physiology to stay like that. So in the last 10,000 years or so to where we are today, there hasn't been a lot of, relatively a lot of technological advancement except for in the last 200 years, right? And let's say the last 20 years with computers and cell phones and stuff like that, right? So say the last 500 years to 1,000 years, maybe 1,000 years, you could get along without vision, right? Because now we're community, people aren't out on their own, especially in your cities. So what happens is, in the reality, in 2023, like, of course, like, you're going to go blind. It's not a death sentence at all on any level. But the brain, your physiology thinks it is. Your brain thinks if it doesn't have vision, it is going to die. What is that going to cause? Massive anxiety. Massive. Especially early on, that you don't have control over. So we have to learn, we have to understand that my body's going to go into this holy mode, especially early on, and you're going to be freaking out and you don't know why. Like, your body's just totally going nuts. And what it does is it creates this sympathetic response, this fight or flight, that you're going to be hanging in all the time. And you're like, I got to do this, or oh my God, or hiding. So you're either in this like fight or flight or fright response, and it's a survival response. So just be aware of that. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm so emotional, I'm so freaking out, I used to be really cool and calm and collected. This is part of the reason why. Like, it's your brain is telling yourself that it needs vision back. And how do we know this? How do we know that the body sees vision is so important? This is one of the reasons we know. When people get things like wet macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy, the body grows new blood vessels to try to compensate and increase more oxygen and circulation to the eyes. It's one of the few places in the body will grow new blood vessels to feed the retina so that we can see. The body sees it as that vital, okay? So it's true. We're not making this up. So the idea here is that we have to understand this and then do relaxation practices. We have to train our body out of this sympathetic response through self-talk, meditation. Okay, we're good. And it may take a while, but we have to train ourselves out of this, this state that we can get into. That make sense? Okay, good. Like my saber-tooth tiger. So what do we do now? So now we're going to get into some things that we can do. How do we decompress this stress capacity that we talked about, right? How do we improve that? I'm glad you asked. So first, the obvious. Things like meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, for those of us who are a little bit hyperactive and can't stand just sitting, like me, I started with Tai Chi and yoga because like sitting when I was younger was like painful. I just couldn't do it. Like I was just, I'm gonna sit. So Tai Chi was really good. Yoga, moving meditation was great. So any of those practices, and there's different variations. There's TM, there's yoga, there's Qigong, there's all different types of meditation. There's mindful meditation, there's just chilling out and listening to music and closing your eyes and relaxing for a little while. So that's one thing. Trimming the fat. So look at your life. Actually, last night I watched a really, really good documentary. It's off a book called What the Bleep Do We Know? The Simple Art of Not Giving a F. All right. So they had a book on that, and the guy just came out with a movie. I watched it on Amazon. I just felt like watching something like that. So it's really good. So this guy talked a lot about that, and he said the art of not giving an F is pretty much, it's not like this chill out, like, yeah, I'm just going to smoke weed and hang out. It's not like that. It's looking at things that don't serve you and just not caring about them. Like not caring about social competition, not caring about, politics, if that makes you crazy. Things that we can't control that we get over involved with or over emotional with. So what can we just not care about? Like, that doesn't affect my life. Okay, whatever. That doesn't really affect other people's business. People who are kind of like, either we're in their lives or kind of overreaching and not respecting our boundaries, or sometimes we're kind of up in other people's business. It's MYOB. Figure out what your own business is, what you're into, and just stick with that. That's really the long and short of it. Trimming the fat means getting rid of that which doesn't serve you, that which doesn't feel right, and that which you don't want. It could be relationships too. There could be people in your life that, obviously family's family, but there could be people, friends or whatever, that just black holes, that just drain you. You know those people. You're just exhausted. You're like, oh God, they're calling. Not home, or just they just suck the life out of you, you know? And then there's the people that are batteries. You hang out with, they charge you up. You feel great, you feel powerful, inspired. Hang out with more of those people and just clean up your environment. Just do things that charge you up and make you feel good, as opposed to things that, you know, suck you dry of energy. Manage your triggers. We talked a little bit about this. This is ego survival. I could do a whole two-hour thing on this. But the ego, right, we all have one, ego, everybody's got one. So that's what ego is. Ego is about survival. It's about our worldviews and our perspectives. And the ego protects to death its worldviews and belief systems. Anytime those are challenged, then what happens? Conflict. Interpersonal conflict, international conflict. Conflict is conflict. It's a clash of egos and worldviews about what one person believes and another person believes, and the conflict that lies between the two, and the desire to be right, you know, to defend that. So that's what that's about. So what happens is that ego is built from things like wounding, life experiences, PTSD, right? Or anybody or anything is going to challenge how we see the world, or what we believe or what we don't believe, right? And that's where you have people argumenting, anything from, you know, support groups to politics to husband and wife to parents and kids to friends, enemies, whatever. So just understand that when you're feuding, you're defending your ego or your worldview. And you may be right, but it's useful to consider the other person's perspective. Even if you don't think it's right, all right, I don't agree with you, but I want to know what you're thinking. That's respect, right? You're just, okay. And that's smart. That's actually intelligence. I totally don't agree with you, but tell me. Tell me, what do you think? And just listen openly and receptively to what people are, where they're coming from. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it or believe them, but have the respect and appreciation that other people have their own worldviews and opinions. And again, based on their own woundings and PTSD and traumas and belief systems and upbringing and social norms and cultural norms and brainwashing and propaganda too, right? That stuff can certainly get into our heads. Teachers, school, parents, stuff like that. So some of it serves us, some of it doesn't. Just be wary of the stuff that we dig too much in and we try to hold her. This is the way it is. Pretending we know when we don't. Regular exercise. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Move your body. Move your body. Really important. I have videos upon videos in our YouTube page on this, on exercise. It gets rid of the stress hormones in the body, dilates the blood vessels to get more blood flow to the brain, to the eyes, and all parts of the body. I will tell you guys this. There's two things that my patients have told me over the last 25 years that are constant. My vision gets worse when I'm stressed. My vision gets better when I exercise. I hear that every week, for the last 25 years from patients, in a question form or a statement form. Could it be I started exercising again and my vision's getting a little bit? Yes, because you dilated blood vessels, you're managing your stress, you're getting more oxygen to your eyes. What happens when you get stressed? Talk more about the mechanism in it. One of the things that happens, your blood vessels constrict. Less blood flow to the eyes and brain. Okay? Proper sleep and nutrition, that's going to be different. Sleep is different for everybody. Some people are good with 5 or 6 hours. Some people need 8, 9, 10 hours. You need what you need. How do you know what you need? You feel all right when you wake up the next morning. And during the year, it could be different times. When you're more stressed out, you probably need a little more sleep. When you're feeling good, you probably need a little less sleep. Summertime, probably need a little less sleep. Wintertime, probably need a little more sleep. Okay, so it's relative. Try to get to bed by 11. That's kind of my rule of thumb. You know, once in a while, you want to stay up late too. Chinese medicine, the Chinese medical clock, the liver time, which is associated with the vision. If you guys have read my book or anything like that, Chinese medicine associates the liver organ function with vision. The liver is at its height at night. So between like 11 to 3 in the morning, we kind of want to be pretty dormant. Like the liver and the gallbladder starts around that time, their activity. So that's the metabolism of fat. That's the repair and regeneration of the nerves and the vascular system in the body. So it's a good practice to at least get in bed, be like in a relaxing, meditative, not watching, and I don't mean jumping in bed and watching like the 10 o'clock news or 11 o'clock news. So start winding down around then. Proper nutrition, clean diet is different for everybody. Again, I will do a new talk on that pretty soon. But things like clean diet, alkaline diet, I'm a big fan of. I like the Mediterranean diet. Some people do vegetarian, vegan, that's fine. Guys, just watch your processed, greasy, fried foods, your trans fats, your junk foods, stick to whole foods. Leafy green vegetables, of course. More whole foods are definitely better. Food allergies are really important too, and you guys have heard me talk about that. So radical self-care, especially when we are, what did I just do here? Excuse me, I'm timing out. Slideshow, let me go back here. Okay, so when we're here, this is how we do, when we start taking care of ourselves, which I call radical self-care, this is when that indicator, that flash has to come on. I'm overwhelmed. I have to take care of myself. Things are going on. You're not taking care of yourself. So physically, emotionally, you're overdone. So this is the trigger to let you know that we have to start moving towards radical self-care, to take more time for ourselves. Massage, relaxation, take a walk, talk to friends, spend time with your loved ones, do more for you so that you can be of service to others. You know, well, I have so much, I have to take care of everybody. When you're overwhelmed, how much value to other people? Zero, if not less. Meaning you bring your crap to them. You know, you bring it. You bring your overwhelming, your negativity. People don't want that. So you're not helping. So take care of yourself to be of better service to other people. Okay? Manage overwhelm. So this is a strategy that I learned from a book called The One Thing. I really, really liked it. If you're in managing and you feel overwhelmed, like you have to manage stuff that's going on, there's too much stuff, tasks going on, I like this strategy. It's a D4 strategy. Deal, delegate, defer, or delete. What that means is you deal with it, right? Like that, you're taking it on. All right, I'm just going to deal with it. I'm going to deal with it right now today, make a decision, I'm going to deal with it and handle it. Delegate, I may need to ask for help. Or I'm going to have to ask somebody else to do it, maybe a partner, a friend, a coworker, something like that. I can't do it now, it needs to get done, I'm going to delegate it, right? Defer it. Maybe it's not urgent. I thought it needs to get done now, but it doesn't. I'm going to defer it to like a week or two, a month or whatever. Or delete it. I'm never going to do it. Things that you've been talking for a year, 2, 3, 4 years that you're going to get done, just take it off your list because you're never going to do it. So let yourself off the hook, right? Just, oh yeah, I've been meaning to years. Get rid of it. Do it or delete it. So that'll help free you up. That strategy I really like. When I get overwhelmed, I really call upon this quite often. If it's like things that I'm like, all right, do I want to deal with it? Do I want to delegate? Do I want to refer? Do I want to delete it? So that's more for production and work and stuff like that when you're dealing with even home tasks. Have more fun, monitor the overwork tendencies, right? Most of us are overworking, especially in our culture. We're just doing too much. Productivity is great. It makes us feel good. But when we start to burn out, we start to get like, oh, yeah, you want to get boring and dull. Too much work. You don't want to have fun anymore. You don't want to travel. People annoy you and irritate you. You're not having fun. You know when you're not having fun. Have some fun. Go to a concert. Go out to dinner. Go for a walk. Play with a pet. Do something that kind of lights you up a little bit. Get out of your orbit. One of the best ways to deal with overwork, you're in an orbit with all this work and your routine. Get out of your routine. Take 3 days away or something like that. Do something different. Just get out of your routine. Also things like if it's a challenge for you, you're really having a hard time, look at things like hypnosis, neurofeedback, biofeedback, NLP. I'm not really a big fan of classical psychology, and the reason is, having done it since I was 7 years old, my parents got divorced, I'm well-versed in psychology for most of my life, being on the receiving end, that is. So my experience with psychology, and there are some great, great therapists out there. There absolutely. Generally speaking, there is a focus on the problem, right? You go to a therapist and you just talk about the problem. Talk about the problem, talk about the problem, talk about the problem, talk about the problem, talk about the problem. I usually feel worse after, because I'm just focusing on the problem. I go back, I feel so good, then I walk in like, hey, how you doing? I had a great day. Then we talk about the problem, and I would be like, oh, what the? I feel worse. I don't understand why. It's because I'm focusing on the problem. right? We talked about it a little bit earlier. So solutions are always a better focus. Feel to heal. I'm going to talk a little bit more this in a second. Processing your feelings, not the stories and judgments, and outcomes. Focus on your solutions, not the problems. These last two are worth really talking more about. We're going to do that right now. So I'm going to slow down. This is kind of also where I was talking about where we can support each other, ourselves and those that we're in relationship with. Coworkers, friends, family, siblings, parents. This is really important. This is some of the more recent work I've done. So core support, I'm going to make a couple of generalizations here, and they are generalizations. They are not absolutes. So we have left brain and right brain function, right? Left brain is more intellectual, it's more strategic, it's more problem-solving puzzles, and the right brain is more processing of emotions and dealing with emotional type of stuff. People tend to be more left brain and right brain, right? There are people who are more emotionally based, just they're more emotional people, and there are people who are more intellectual, right? Take an artist, somebody who, or an actor and actress more dramatic, versus somebody who's a research scientist or an engineer, right? Very left brain, very just the just the facts, man. So there's that type. So we all have both of these. Also, generally speaking, women will tend to just occupy more of a right brain tendency and operate more out of emotions, generally. Are there men who are very emotional? Absolutely. Generally speaking, guys will tend more towards left brain activity. Puzzles, problem solving, fixing it, like with repair guys. We want to fix everything. Women don't want to hear that. We want to fix everything. But that's what we do. That's generally what kind of that left brain activity is about. So keeping that in mind, that tendency for right brain healing, which again will dominantly be women, but also there are definitely guys who are definitely wired to be more emotional. So the idea here is how to help people get back to feeling better and dealing with this stuff is if right brain is dominant and you're just overwhelmed with emotions, you got to deal with that. Whether you're a man or woman, guys will tend to move through it a little bit faster and they want to move to problem solving. Women will generally tend to hang out and feel a lot more comfortable dealing with their emotions, right? So what that means is the feeling is the healing. That means you want to feel your emotions. You don't want to push them away. You don't want to dwell on them and perseverate and, oh, my misery. You know what I mean? You don't want to dramatize it, but you want. What I mean by that is you want to be with the emotion, feelings, not the stories or judgments around the feelings. There's a difference. The feeling is the feeling. I am feeling anger in my neck and jaw, in my tension in my head. I'm feeling irritability. I'm not talking about the story about why. I'm just identifying in my body that I'm feeling tension in my head, in my jaw, in my neck. My back is tense. I'm feeling anxiety in my chest. I feel it right here. I got horrible news. I feel sick to my stomach. I feel nauseous. I can't digest the information that whatever came at me. Or I feel deep sadness in my solar plexus. Right? Heck with the story. Like, the story's a story. That's not going to help you. What's going to help you is just focusing on the feeling and where in your body is it. This is coming from you. Validate it. Feelings want to be validated. That's it. They don't want the story. They don't want the judgments. Just the feelings. Just the frequency of the feelings. You have to give it respect and appreciation and acknowledgement. Sometimes you have to sit with the feeling for 30 seconds. Sometimes maybe 30 hours. You know, if it's some deep stuff and your emotions come up, sometimes you might not be able to sit with it right then and there. Maybe at work. Not the best time to, have a crying fit or emote. But when you go home, you got some stuff you got to deal with. So feel into it. And don't look for the feeling. Oh, maybe I'm angry. Don't look for it. If it comes up, be with it. Give it a home. Acknowledge it. Appreciate it. Value that as your divine spirit. That helps your self-worth. You're identifying and acknowledging yourself. So Generally speaking, generally again, this is how women heal. Most women do very well. Again, there's some guys, and if you're dealing with major emotional stuff, this will help to a degree. But generally speaking, guys, you guys too, if you have a female friend or you're a woman who has a female friend, get them feeling. So we're so culturally programmed not to deal with our feelings and just like not deal with them, or we just deal with the crap and move on. You have to acknowledge your feelings. And usually it's irritability, anxiety, sadness, these types, sometimes disgust, or sometimes these other nasty emotions. But most of it is anger, fear, sadness, worry, overwhelm. Those are the main ones. So, yeah, I'm feeling overwhelmed. That's it. There's no story. Yeah, I feel angry. Where do I feel? Okay, so I'm just going to... I'm angry. Just pay attention, acknowledge it, let it just be with that, and it goes away. Don't take my word for it. Try it yourself. And if your partner, again, is emoting or they're having what are you feeling? Well, this whole... Not the story. What are you feeling right now? Well, the cart cut me off on the way up. What are you feeling right now? So that's leading yourself and helping your partner or family member, coworker, whatever, lead back to just dealing with what is. The story didn't happen. The story is a filter of what might have happened, a version. What you're feeling is what is, and that's real. That's the only thing that matters right then. Okay? You guys clear on that? So the other side, left brain, again, generally guys, but there are a lot of women who are very wired towards kind of more left brain, intellect, stuff like that. Focus on the solution. Of course you're going to need a combination of both because neither one is mutually exclusive. But guys generally, they don't want to sit in bed and cry. Useful. Women are okay with that. Sometimes it's needed and useful. Guys, work anyway. Get up, work, focus on your mission. Let's get back to work. What do you got to do? Right? So, any guys just see the Top Gun movie recently? It came out. So this whole scene, I'll give just an example. So Tom Cruise breaks down. There's like a death and everything like that. He's all upset, and they're like, "Get him back up in the air. Let's get him back up in the air. Just get right back on your mission and everything like that." You're going to be upset. You're going to cry. You're going to be irritable. You're going to deal with your emotions, but you're doing your work anyway. That's how most guys in left brain recovery happens. You work through the pain. You just do it. That's that whole just do it. Do it anyway. Do the work. What you're doing is that is how you're working through your stress. So guys who are dealing with these stresses about vision loss and stuff like that, come up with a plan. What's your solution? What's your strategy? You got to be a general around this. What's your plan? What's your strategy? How are you going to deal with this? What's the next step? I want clarity. I want direction. I want specifics. How am I going to deal with this? And yes, we need both of those. All of us need both of those. If you're over-emoting, let me deal with the emotions first, then get to this. Let me get rid of this distraction, this weather front that's coming in. Let's deal with the emotions. Yeah, I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm depressed. I'm irritable. It's fine. Don't push it away. Don't go looking for it. If it comes up, deal with it. And you can help your partners too. What are you feeling? Tell me what you're feeling. Where are you feeling that? Better? Okay, now what are we going to do about it? It's ways to help people heal and right themselves. And when you do that, when you're a right brain person, you've dealt with your emotions, you're a heck of a lot better. And we're going to talk about what happens after you've cleaned this up. Your left brain, back on track, back on the mission. I don't have all the answers. I'm on course now. Not so bad. Good? Okay. So this is if we sum it up. Okay, accepting what is. This is the situation. The feelings, the emotions, the facts around it. The facts set of what's going on and the feelings around it. I'm totally accepting of it. I don't have to like it, but I accept it. That's responsibility and accountability. Am I going to fight for my vision or not? Or not? It's fine. What's the fight that I'm going to enter? Am I going to fight for my vision? Am I going to do this stuff? Am I going to do the work that's required, that I want to try to get some back, try to recover and preserve vision? That's my fight now. It is. That's your fight. That's your mission. That's your purpose. There could be emotions behind that. Why are you doing this? That's all the emotional reasons we talked about earlier, the lifestyle. Why is it? What does it mean to you to do that? Or not. That's fine too. Right? There's a lot of people. Just make a decision. If you're not going to fight, you don't want to put energy into this because you just don't have it, or it's not, you don't care. Some people are like, okay, it's just, all right, the vision's going, it's all right. Fine. If you don't want to fight the fight, don't fight the fight. But either be clear that you're going to fight the fight or not fight the fight. That's where people get confused. Do it or don't do it. But make a decision. Then process your emotions, if you got emotions going on around them, as we just talked about. Anger, fear, anxiety, irritability, blame, shame, anything, parents, friends, whatever story you have. Process that. Then realize that you must be your own advocate. No one's coming to save you. That's it. It's a little hard truth too, but you got to do it on yourself. Yes, you can have support. That's what we're here for. Guidance, clarity, help support you guys, but it's on you. You have to know that. You have to believe that it's you and yourself, and everybody else is going to support you, but it's on you. Educate yourself to gain clarity. What's available to you, right? That's our videos and all the stuff that we put out. I like to consider I do a very good job at helping people see what's available to them. Do we have everything in the universe? No, but we try to give people what's available. Create a plan and direction. What are we going to do? What's the plan? So we decide I'm going to fight for it. How am I going to do it? What's the strategy? And then be persistent. Stick to the plan. Plan your work and work your plan. And be in it for the long haul. If this is a long-term thing, if it's a short-term thing, what are you going to do? Like an eye stroke or something? All right, what do I got to do in the next year or two to recover my vision? That's it. If it's a long-term neurodegenerative, all right, I'm in it. This is my life. I made the commitment to fight for it. I'm going to fight until I decide I'm not going to fight anymore. But persistence pays. We just did a whole thing on that last week. We were talking about that, where a lot of my patients who've done the best without question over years have been the ones that have been coming for a while. Yeah, some they miss here and there. There's COVID and stuff like that, but they're committed to doing something every day, whether it's supplements, exercise, managing their emotions, eating right, using alternating current stimulation, getting acupuncture, whatever you're doing something every day to benefit yourself and your vision. So, as you guys know, all these stress factors, I'm not going to do a whole conversation about this, you guys have all heard this to nauseam, but there are these three main stress factors that are all accelerated when we're under stress. The blood flow, capillaries constrict. All the blood vessels constrict under stress, reducing blood flow. Emotional stress, mental stress causes irritation and inflammation in the body. Metabolic inflammation. Accelerates aging. We know that. Causes more oxidative stress. Stress chews up more antioxidants than pretty much any other process. We also know that stress can affect things like blood sugar in the body. Things like diabetes or hypoglycemia can affect the adrenal glands, and the hypopituitary axis. Can also affect your neurotransmitters, right? Your neurotransmitters, we have some major ones. We have GABA, which is for control. It's a braking system for anxiety and like panic attacks. We have our dopamine, which is our reward hormone, makes us feel good. We have our serotonin, which is kind of like our love, kind of just hanging out, like just feel real good. And then we have our acetylcholine for focus and concentration, as well as our catecholamines. So those are our neurotransmitters, and the stress can disrupt the manufacturing in those as well. So those are important because those can affect our executive function of our brain, okay, and the decisions we make. So one way that we use acupuncture to help manage stress is part of the vision program. Right now, you guys understand that managing stress is really important. Is a part of the program anyway. The acupuncture is so beneficial for this. Right out of the gate, when we do acupuncture, one of the first things that happens is we have a release of what's called endorphins, our body's natural morphine that produces natural painkiller. So that's our dopamine hit. We get a dopamine hit, helps relax the body, and it also starts to balance the neurotransmitters that we talked about that can be dysregulated. Basically works on the autonomic nervous system, the brain function. Relaxation increases blood flow to the eyes, right? We dilate the blood vessels. Promotes a parasympathetic response. We talked earlier about how when we're in sympathetic fight or flight, our body can't heal. So we have to get our body into a rest and digest relaxation response to repair the brain, the eye, the whole visual system. Decreases, when we relax, we decrease the high beta brainwave activity, which is associated with stress situations. And you guys who studied Joe Dispenza stuff. So our brainwave activity during stress is called high beta. With acupuncture and meditation and relaxation exercise, we bring it into alpha theta, which is a deep state of relaxation where our body can heal, our neuroplasticity gets activated, where we can also increase our body's cognitive problem solving, creative problem solving. When we're stressed out, I don't know if you guys knew this, the creative problem solving part of our brain shuts off. You can't find solutions when you're stressed out. Maybe autopilot, if you kind of had experience, you're going to basically do what you've trained, but when we're stressed out, you're going to default. You're not going to have a capacity to access a creative solution when you're stressed out. So it's really a bad idea to try to come up with a solution when you're stressed out. It's a good idea to relax before you make a big decision, right? Also, we're transcending ego, which we talked about earlier, that protective worldview, I'm right, you're wrong, this, that type of dark side, light side type of thing. And we're transcending into relativity and wisdom, which is more a creative process as opposed to a destructive me versus you, I'm right, you're wrong, which is all ego. So it's inclusive. So when we relax, we open up that perspective, which is really important for healing and perspective. So what we offer, obviously, in addition to the acupuncture, is sometimes we need nutritional support, right? We talked about that we can use acupuncture, but sometimes we need intervention, meaning we need healthcare providers to help us out. Do things like acupuncture, maybe physical trainers, people to teach us how to meditate. We have certain supplements that will help with the blood sugar, with the neuro repair, but also balance the autonomic nervous system and to help with the neurotransmitters. For example, look, you could my patients come in, say get some vision back, but you're still miserable. You're still really depressed. The way I look at it, how much have I really helped you? Like, yeah, on paper, we helped your vision. Life sucks, you know? Like, gotta look at that. Maybe it's a neurotransmitter imbalance. We're gonna deal with your serotonin. Maybe you like dealing with it and you're like OCD or, ADD and you're all over the place and you have like these little rage episodes and stuff. Maybe your dopamine levels need to be fixed. Or maybe you're having panic attacks and you can't sleep. We need to deal with your GABA. Or you're so overwhelmed that you can't focus or concentrate anymore. We need to deal with your acetylcholine and catecholamines. Stimulate those faculties. So we'll look at that. So we also can use things like our Canavision, our CBD, to help relax and calm the central nervous system. Right? It's just like a global quasi-sedation. And guys, this Canavision has CBD, which is not THC, so it's not like smoking a joint. It will relax the brain, but you're not going to be whacked out. Also things like the ACS, alternating current, that helps the whole brain system to equalize and normalize. And part of what we're doing right there is creating new neurotracts and neuropaths for the brain to optimize whatever residual function is left. And then, of course, we do things like we offer more like telehealth for patients who want deeper dives into what's going on. And as you guys know, who are here, we do in-office treatments, which is our best treatment available. We have our Eye Health Institute and AcuVision Acupuncture websites where everything's available. So again, I said this a couple times already. The important thing is, I know this isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants to jump on their vision, healing, and support, and it's not for everybody. However, don't ruminate. Decide you're going to do something about it, or you're not going to do something about it. Like you're going to fight, you're going to start working, and you want to deal with the emotions around it and really help your vision, and just make the decision if you can do something about it. Learn, look at our videos. We have like well over 100 videos on YouTube. Look for your condition. Get information from me and other people about what's available. Everything. Do some research. That is increasing, again, your self-worth because you're prioritizing yourself. You're not looking outside for somebody to save you. You're taking care of it yourself. So, and if you need help, get the help you need. Sometimes you don't necessarily want to try to do this all by yourself. It's very overwhelming. and there's not a lot of good information out there. So again, our message is to stay strong, stay in power. Your vision is, in fact, our mission, and I mean that. That's why we're here. We do all these different types of talks and stuff like that to hit the different angles of how not just your eyes and the mechanism of your eyes, but we look at this holistic integrative model. We want to look at all these different areas of health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, metabolic health, respiratory health, immune system, neurological system. They're all working together, right? It's not just parts as parts. Our bodies are an ecosystem. It's a living organism with emotions, feelings, psychological processes. We need to understand all that and appreciate all that. So that is what I have for you guys. I hope that was useful, relevant, deep dive into the psychological aspects of dealing with vision loss. Now I'm going to turn you guys down as we wrap up here.